Good morning. Good morning. I am Serafina Monique, and we are back with our 10th day of our self love journey. We're on day 10, you guys. And this week we are talking about setting boundaries, okay? Setting boundaries. So, setting boundaries are there for your protection, okay? So, setting boundaries is a form of self care, okay? So, and again, we have to, whenever you set boundaries, make sure you carry out those boundaries, okay? Make sure you respect your own boundaries so that others can respect them as well, okay? So if you set a boundary and that boundary line is crossed and you do absolutely nothing about it, then it's going to be crossed again and again and again until no one takes until your boundaries or you're not taken seriously, okay? You're not taken seriously, okay? So today I wanted to I want to do boundary boxes, you guys. Boundary boxes. So what it is there are a lot of areas in life that we need to set boundaries for. Okay, so we can have boundaries for like your children, relationships. Let's see, you can have emotional boundaries, you can have time boundaries, um, sexual boundaries. Okay, so it's a lot of different categories that you have to set boundaries for. Okay, so but in setting boundaries, you teach people how to treat you. You're teaching people how to treat you by setting boundaries, and by not going back on those boundaries. You are actually teaching people how to treat you because you're showing them what you're going to put up with and what you're not going to put up with. Okay, so the way to set a boundary is you have to control you have to control one of you have to control the outcome. Okay, you control the outcome, so it's like if this happened, then this will happen. Okay, so let's see, with emotional boundaries. So if someone makes me feel a type of way, if someone hurts my feelings or whatever makes me feel a type of way, then I'm going to remove myself from the situation. Okay, so one of which you control. Okay, so if someone's yelling at me, I'm going to remove myself from the situation. So you can't control other people, you can only control yourself. Okay, so that the consequence to the boundaries, you guys, that is what you control. Okay, so if you yell at me, then I will remove myself from this conversation. Okay, so you control the consequences of the boundary. If the boundaries are crossed, then you control that consequence. Okay, so time boundaries. You set boundaries related to time as well. Okay, so if I've seen lately, it's especially with like hairdressers. If you're doing hair or you're doing something to where you have to schedule an appointment, they have begin setting boundaries to where it's like if you're late, then either you're going to have to pay extra, or if you're late, then you're going to have to reschedule. Okay, so again, you teach people how to treat you, you guys. So if someone's late and if someone's hair appointment is at 1 and they come in at 1:30 and you don't say anything about it, you're okay with them coming in at 1:30, then the next time it may be 2 o'clock. Okay, and them not respecting your boundaries, if you're running a business, well, your time period, honey, if they don't respect your time, then that's gonna push you back for something else. Okay, that's gonna put those 30 minutes, that means it's gonna take an additional 30 minutes off your day. Okay, so you have to set those boundaries. You have to set those time boundaries. Okay, say if I say I'm going to pick you up at 3 o'clock You need to be ready at 3 o'clock. Okay. Or you're going to get left. Okay. So we have to set those boundaries, and that way, it'll only take one time. It will only take one time for you to enforce those consequences. If the boundaries aren't met, it will only take one time, because then they'll know that, okay, she's serious, she's about business. So let me get here on time. Let me do this way. Let me not yell at her because I want to talk to her. And if people value you, they're going to respect your boundaries, okay? If people value you, they will respect your boundaries. Okay, so another thing, honey, sexual boundaries. You have to set sexual boundaries, okay? So if you decide that you want to be celibate until you get married, that's a boundary, okay? I'm not going to have sex until I get married, okay? So that's with that, you have to create boundary lines, honey, because that's I don't know, that's kind of hard. So you're going to have to create like boundaries within that. So this is as far as we can go without going here, okay? So if you go further, then this is going to happen, okay? And I can't get to the point to where my sexual boundaries are being crossed, okay? So we're just going to keep it here. This is going to be the cutoff point. So, okay, so we can go to first base, but if you go to second base, then we're going to have to cut it off or something, okay? Because we can't you can't hit a home run or however the bases go, okay? So I'm just saying with your boundaries, if being celibate until you're married is one of your boundaries, then, you'll have to break it down and find the cutoff point to where you don't your boundaries aren't crossed, okay? So you set boundaries with your children, honey. You set boundaries with your children. You set boundaries in relationships, okay? So if you're in a relationship, you may have a boundary to where you don't touch my phone, okay? That may be a boundary. So if you touch not so much touch it, but if you go through my phone, then, this will happen, okay? So you set those boundaries. So I wanted to talk about boundary boxes, okay? So what it is, you just draw boxes, okay? Let me show you guys, and I hope you can see it. So these are boundary boxes. So you just draw the boxes, and then you label each box, okay? So one box may be labeled, let's see, emotional boundaries. So if I'm feeling this type of way, if someone makes me feel this type of way, or if someone hurts me, then this, okay? So set your emotional boundaries, set your boundaries with time, okay? So so that people can respect your time, and then so that people can respect your feelings, okay? And your sexual boundaries, okay? So, and then your work boundaries, boundaries with people you work with. So if you get off work, some of us is like, once I get off work, don't call me. Once I get off work, don't call me about work, because I'm not going to answer, okay? So that may be a boundary that some of you guys have set. Once I get off work, you leave work at work, okay? So that may be a boundary that that you guys set. If the job call, I'm not going to answer. Send a text message or something. But it's just boundaries you have to set with boundaries. You have to set boundaries with people on your job as well, okay? So, a lot of people, I've seen a lot where people say, go to work, do your job, and go home, and that's it, okay? Go to work, do your job, and go home. And don't, a lot of people, they don't interact, not so much interact, but interact on a personal level. Okay, so they have boundaries to where they know that, okay, my personal relationship information about my personal life don't belong in the workplace. Okay, so I'm gonna create boundaries. I'm gonna set the line to where my personal business is my personal business. Okay, and that's a boundary you have to set for yourself, and you have to respect that boundary yourself. Okay, so again, just do these boundary boxes, and it's like whatever area you need to set boundaries in your life, whatever area you need to set them in, create a box for it. And this, it'll just give you a breakdown of it. Okay, so you may have emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, social boundaries, intellectual boundaries, sexual boundaries, time related boundaries, or behavioral boundaries. Okay, so do those boxes, and for each box create boundaries for that. Okay, and so again, boundaries are set for your protection. Okay, boundaries are there for your protection. So do the work. It's a form of self-control. Okay, so do self-care. Okay, so do the work, and create these boundary boxes. Okay, and remember, you can't control others, you can only control yourself. So when you set boundaries, however they decide to act is on them. Okay, but whether they respect you or not, you control the outcome, because you can remove yourself from that situation. So creating boundaries. So if you yell at me, then I'm going to hang up. Okay, so you create those boundaries, and the outcome you're in control of. Okay, so that is it for today, you guys. I just encourage you guys to continue doing your journey, and continue setting those boundaries. Okay, and I pray that you guys have a blessed and prosperous rest of your day. So enjoy this day, and be blessed and be a blessing.